Hi, I'm Avalon Starlight, and you are listening to the Rebel Unicorns podcast. This season, I'm super stoked because we are talking about something very near and dear to my heart, chakras, and how they can completely transform your life and your business. Listen each week as I share my own chakra experiences, as well as introducing you to incredible guests with their own chakra stories. Are you ready? Let's get our Rebel on. Rebel Unicorns, you are in for a treat on today's podcast. This is a human that I have got to share space with for so long, and ultimately is the greatest impactor of joy and love and high vibrational frequency. Like, you cannot be in her presence without completely taking in and soaking in her essence. She doesn't hide any part of herself. She shows up so fully for herself, her clients, her service. I mean, she is like a blanket of love. Please help me in welcoming Jen Anderson to the podcast today. Welcome, Jen.
It's just surreal, actually, because you have said that to me before, and I feel like now I have fully stepped into that, of like, I can receive it differently. You've said it to me in different ways over the years, and I was like, yeah, okay, I'm a happy person, yeah. And now I'm like, yeah, no.
It's just so everyone's aware. It was only recently that I messaged Jen Anderson, and I was like, Jen, I'm doing a podcast season on the energy funnel, on the chakras and how they impact your life and business. And now I would like to have you now, today, in this moment, it's time for you to come in and share your experience with the Crown Chakra.
Whew.
I know. And what did you say right before we hopped on? Okay.
If you had asked me to do the Crown even a month ago, definitely 6 months ago for sure, I would have been like, oh, I think Tamara, Avalon, you have the wrong person. I think you should get another client for the Crown.
I think this is a big story. I think this is a big message, and I think that it can be really impactful. So give a little bit of, because I've just described you as the happiest, most joyous person to be in the environment or in the energy of. How would you define what you do? Like, who is Jen Anderson according to Jen Anderson?
Ooh, I don't like that question because I feel like she evolves every day.
Great. Who is she today?
Today, she is powerful AF and fully believes in what comes through her crown, actually. And
good.
It took me a very long time to get there.
It's a good choice, Avalon. Check. You got the right person.
Yes. It truly is. It as much as I'm a happy person, I was reflecting this morning on the first minimum 8 months of coaching with you. I cried every single time. Every single time. My husband would come home. How was your day? Good. I had a call with Tamara. I cried. Like, I know. I had never opened my emotions in that capacity with anybody, yeah, not even myself. And so as much as it was like, oh, Jen, you're just the downer of crying again on Tamara's shoulder, I also knew that it was a really powerful healing that I needed to go through. And I'm so honored and grateful that you do what you do, that you were able to hold that space for me. Because holy shit, has 2020 been a year in fabulous ways.
Well, I hope you're going to share them all.
Oh, are you sure you don't want to talk about the crying some more? Because there was a lot of crying.
Truly, like, I remember one of my first retreats I ever ran, and Corey at the time was working with Corey Corrigan, and we were doing testimonial videos to use in marketing. I should really pull these up. And Corey was like, I don't even, Tamara doesn't even have to say a word. So just for everybody's it might get confusing because both Jen and I are going to say Tamara and Avalon throughout this podcast because I'm in the process of being born into this new name, but we are all not used to it yet. So just be in the process with us and the mess with us as we embody both these names and share space with them. And Corey was like, Avalon doesn't even say anything, and I cry. And I'm like, is that marketable? Can you actually put that up somewhere and be like, yeah, just looking at Avalon in the eyes brings up emotion that is meant to be.
It truly does. Like, I would feel fine coming into some of the calls. I would feel like, okay. I was like feeling like, okay, everything's pretty okay. And then I'd be on a call with you, and 5 minutes in, you wouldn't even have to look directly at me, I don't think. I would just be sobbing. I brought tissues for sure to every single call. Yes. But it was just such a beautiful release of it all. It felt heavy in the moment. There were definitely days that I was like, why so many tears, Jen? And now I'm like, yeah, that was what I needed to go through. There were years I didn't cry at all. At all. And I had some heavy shit in my life. And I never grieved or mourned or allowed myself to feel all the feelings of that. And working together in that space with you is what allowed me to feel and love all of those feelings. That was a process that took some months.
You didn't always love your feelings.
Yeah. Like all of them. I can love all of them. I am not a weak person or a depressed person or a bad person. Even though I would never judge that within anybody else, I would hold space for them if they ever needed to cry, but I did not feel that I could do that. I had to put on a front.
Where do you think you got that from?
Mucho love to my mom, but that's women in my family. That's strength. You don't show emotion, really. Or if you do, it's usually not lovely. You can't love it. You can't be proud of it. You can't be okay with it.
Gotcha. When you said it can't be lovely, I was like, so like there was this vision of being the strong one, keeping it together, carrying the weight of your shoulders like a badge of honor kind of thing.
Yep, 100%.
It's interesting because there's going to be a theme for everybody that's listening to the podcast because I'm recording them in advance and actually putting them out as a season, not like week by week. It's a very new experience. But there's this underlying conversation that we've been having as a collective about grief. Right? About truly in Western culture, we are not taught to cry. We're not taught to feel. We witness our parents like being in these forms and ways in which emotions are not embodied. They're not taught. They're not celebrated. They're not, they're stuffed away. And so we become a miniature versions of these. And the true like mastery comes from Eastern culture, like of this like celebration of grief as a community, grief as a, a blessing, grief as praise, grief as joy, grief as, because you can't really like, and even when we're talking about the grief that you've been through and I have been through with my coach as well, right? Like this level of witnessing ourselves, there's like realizing that it's in the grief that we're praising ourselves.
Yes, that's a tweetable. Pause recording. Go write that down.
Well, it's actually from this teacher, and I can send you the video, Martin Prakatel. Grief and praise are the same. It's been this like really powerful, I'm going to put in the show notes now, really powerful catalyst for me, especially being, in this space of difference this season, the holidays. 2020 was about grief. Like, I really think that the honoring of the grief created the capacity to step more fully into service, into impact, into devotion, into
I agree.
Change.
Completely. And I think 2020 for me also was cool in that we don't always get to see our mental growth or our spiritual growth. Like, it's not visible, like when you go to the gym or run or something. And for myself, I'm so grateful that I did all this work the couple years before, because I've been able to see how strong that muscle is this year. Not that there hasn't been hard times. That doesn't mean that I don't feel pissed off at some of the things that have happened this year. And there's a lot of change, there's a lot of differences, absolutely. But at the same time, I don't get stuck in it. And I feel like if this had happened 5 years ago to me, I would have been very stuck in a very negative, harsh, judgy mindset with a lot of things. And I don't feel that this year. I also want to say too, with grief, so 10 years ago, I lost my ex-husband. We were in the middle of a divorce to suicide, and my mom was going through stage 3 cancer at the same time. And I remember people saying to me, "You're just so full of grace. You're so graceful in how you're dealing with this." I was effed up. I was really effed up.
Yeah.
I wasn't dealing anybody. There was no dealing with anything. There was just going through the motions of life. And that I didn't feel like it was an option to grieve at that time because I was a single mom and I was living away from my regular support system. I didn't have close family nearby. And, you know, everything happens for a reason. And that was what I needed to do at that time. But I do think that's also why I had to do as much work with you on the crying as I did.
10 years worth of grief and tears.
Yeah.
Bottled up. And, you know, I'm blessed that you came into that container with me, right? Because there is something so special and so honoring to be able to witness and to be in that space, to hold that with somebody who is feeling safe enough to be vulnerable enough to share those parts. So it was a gift to be able to be there with you, to hold that space. Like we have had some
Yes, we have.
Some super powerful times together.
Yes,
Jen.
we have. Absolutely. And you know what? Do you remember how I came into not working with you the first time, but the second time in the bigger container when I started working more in a one-to-one capacity with you in Avalon?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Do you remember how I messaged you?
No, you're going to have to.
Yeah, it was from my crown. I did a meditation and it said, "Stardust, stardust, 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 stardust."
Right.
Stardust. The only person I knew that ever used that language was you. And so I randomly messaged you and said, "This is really weird," because I wasn't at that place in meditations really that I was understanding anything that was coming through. And you were like, "Okay, let's hop on a call." I was like, "I'm supposed to talk to you. I don't know what this means."
Yeah, that's right.
And now that's a totally different show of when something comes through in meditation. I just trust. But.
So for those that are listening, can you tell them what the crown means to
you? Crown to me is messages from universe that are coming through to me, usually for my own self when I'm in either a meditation or blow drying my hair. And it's just little nudges of what the path you're meant to be on, and you get to choose whether you listen to those. I feel they're there all the time, and it's just whether you trust them or not. And before working with you, I did not trust them or know what they were or understand. It was just weird and foreign to me. I didn't understand any of that. But yeah, if you follow it, it's pretty magical.
It's like the secret sauce nobody talks about. Like, you know, you get divine messages from spirit. And for me, it's like the divine sits above us. Like we can't always see the path forward. It's obstructed. We only have a view. Like right now I'm looking at a wall, right? I don't see beyond the wall. I can't see the house beside me. I can't see, you know, across the ocean to the mainland. I can't see you. You're really not that far from me, but like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're a province over, but I mean, like,
totally.
We can't see, but spirit has this bird's eye view that can look down. And to me, this is the significance of the crown too. Like it is the first place that spirit touches on its way to divinely offering us what is our inheritance and our birthright. Yeah. The first phase we have to accept it is at the level of the crown.
And trust it.
And trust it.
Yeah. It's uncomfortable. It doesn't always make logical sense. I'm sure you kind of went through that with this name.
A year, just over a year. I was like, no, I cannot name myself Avalon. Like that is the sacred island of freaking, the last Isle of Magic in Great Britain is like where Arthur the Legend and Guinevere and like Morgana and all my favorite people are from. They're like, your name's Avalon. And I'm like, dudes, all right, fine, I'll do it. And it's always when you say yes that massive things start to occur.
Exactly. And that they don't make logical sense. Just accept that. It doesn't have to be logical.
So let's talk about, because the main significance, you guys, for the crown is receiving, allowing yourself to receive all the goodness that the universe has to offer you. So whether that be praise, which Jen received very well at the beginning of this.
For Jen, she really did.
It's receiving money. It's receiving opportunity. It's receiving love. It's receiving intimacy. It's receiving like at the highest version. So Jen, give a little backstory here so people fully understand. Like I start talking like you understand. You have a very distinct way of saying that word. Yeah. How challenging it was for you to receive before.
And we're both going to really laugh at that because that was a very, very difficult, long transition. And very many times I said to you, I don't know what else I can receive. I'm receiving everything and I'm so frustrated that I cannot receive money. That was like the final thing that I just could not open up to receiving. And it's powerful because I was like thinking that I was receiving everything. We had really like changed within our family dynamics. My husband does a lot more of the quote unquote wife things, or what I would have called wife things. So I felt like I was receiving in that way of, I wasn't judging for him to go get groceries or if he made supper, or so I was like, I'm receiving help all these places. I'm listening to Tamara. I'm receiving the information. I was so focused on all these receiving pieces, but the money piece just wasn't coming together for me at all. And then it started to come, and that was really cool for a few months, and then it shut right off again. That was really uncomfortable, really, really uncomfortable. And then it just started to switch, and I was just like, this month has been the most craziest financial month of my entire life, in that I thought I would be having this type of month maybe in like a few years from now. Even though I had done all this work internally the last couple of years on the money and my chakras and like all of the things, I thought I was checking all of the boxes to do all of the things. But like, I don't know, 2-3 weeks ago, I just kind of opened up to receiving money, and it's just flowing in from everywhere. And I'm just like, wow, where is this all coming from? But I do catch myself and go to turn off the faucet and then have to go, no, it's okay. It's safe to leave the faucet on. Because I think that's happened a few times over the last year. I went to a retreat in Niagara on the Lake almost exactly a year ago right now, last week. And it was the most magical experience ever. But I went there on full trust that I would be able to receive some money to get home, because all I had enough in my bank account was to fly there and to take the Niagara Airbus from the airport. And I think I had like, I don't know, maybe $80 left. That was it. And I had no ticket home. It was not a return flight. And the money came in and it worked out fine. I got home, but I had pretty good trust, because it was like, it's Christmas. I'm going to be home with my children. There's no way I'm going to be stuck in Niagara on the Lake over the Christmas season. And so it did work out, but January was good. Then I would shut it off. And then March happened and I really shut it off. And then I turned it back on in April and May, and it kept climbing and climbing and climbing. And that was great until it wasn't. Again, it is like you close down Crown. You just stop listening.
Mm-hmm. So what do you think the significant, like when you were turning off, right?
Mhm.
Like when you were like closing the funnel of receive, what was it that you think at the, like looking back, because everything's in hindsight, we can go like, oh, okay, I can see
Yeah.
that this is what I was doing, or this is what I was avoiding, or this is what was it for you? What was it that was closing the receiving tap of flow of abundance?
I was just going to logic. This is what I should do. And it was confusing because it was like there were pieces of things I wanted to do, but then it wasn't coming together because of financials. And that was really hard because I am a full believer of like, if you want something, you just manifest it. I've manifested really weird things in the past 5 years of my life. And it's been really cool. So it was like, okay, what are you doing wrong? 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 And I was so focused on what I was doing wrong all of the time that I was not listening to what I was actually supposed to be doing in moment to moment. Like not huge things. Like I've had a few friends message and say, what shifted for you in the last month? I've really seen a big shift. No, it was just that I finally like tuned in to the full everything that was coming through and just shut everything out again. Doesn't matter what's going on. And it's been like there's a lot going on in Alberta right now. So there's a lot of reasons that I could fall into different belief systems, which I have definitely in the past of, well, this can't happen because of this. And that's what I mean by that logic preset I think we have. Also, though, this month, there was a very smart lady that said to me probably 2 years ago, December can be your biggest month ever. Logically, that doesn't make sense to me. It's the busiest family month ever. It's everybody's looking at, all the shiny objects all around them. That doesn't equate to me having the biggest business month financially ever. But that just kept playing in my mind at the beginning of the month too. No, because I put one of my programs on sale at the beginning of the month at a very low price point, which from any mentor I've ever had is like, don't do that. You're undervaluing. And it just kept coming through. I call it from source that I was meant to do this. I was meant to do this. And it just did not make logical sense. And I've had that message come through before. And I was like, no, I put too much into that program. There's too much value in that program. I shouldn't do this. And that was like catapult that just made everything come together. And it's not because I put that program on sale that has, it's not like I sold $100,000 or 100,000 of these programs. That's not what happened, but it led me to this person and it led me to this person and it led that person over here, and just the most crazy experience ever.
I'm going to share this, and just broaden this because, I often have said, and I say it in podcasts and everywhere else, like how we speak is like we're invoking the universe to bring to us that in which we're saying out into the world. And how many people say, oh, December is going to be terrible. It's going to be the worst month ever. And I was like, why would you choose that? December is my best month. It's always been my best month at all, because people are actually more generous in December than they are as soon as they open. I buy the most things for myself in December than I do any other month of the year. So the same is true for everybody else. And it's like in those moments of realization that we're creating through our words, we're creating in what we're asking for, or what we're speaking out, the invocation of our desires.
And here's like the icing on the cake for that. I would have argued for my limitations in this conversation so hard 6 months ago, even. I feel like I would have been like, I'm saying it. Avalon. I had to stop myself. I am saying it. I am saying those things. I am saying the words. I am writing them down. I'm doing the things, but I didn't truly feel it yet.
I'm gonna, because I watched your Insta stories about this today.
Which one?
The one about, people reaching out to you and saying, what did you do differently? And you actually shared something that I think is so significant and so vital, that especially when we're talking about the energetic body, especially when we're talking about the chakras and creating enough space for the divine flow to actually make its way through the 7 floors of your being and your body, there's one thing that you do have to do. And you did it perfectly well. And you said, guys, it's really strange because this is actually what I did. Can you share that piece with the listeners today?
Oh, there's a few pieces. So I was laser focused every single morning on exactly what I wanted. And I got into the feeling of what I wanted, because I have wrote affirmations out my yin yang, and I don't believe they work if you don't feel them. I've proven time and again to myself that they don't work if you don't feel them. So I did that. I've also worked the smallest amount of time in my business in my days, and I didn't care what the outcome was. I didn't care. Not that I didn't care. It's hard to explain to some people until you experienced it.
Yeah, I was listening to the Manifestation Babe podcast, and somebody sent me it, and it was just something that I listened to just randomly, and she was defining it as neutrality. Like I was neutral.
Yeah.
Right? Like there was no attachment either way. It wasn't like there was a lack and there wasn't like an expectation. It just, you were in a space of neutrality of.
Yes, that it was happening. And you have said that to me for years. Just, it's happening, Jen. Just believe it's happening. And I'm like, I believe it's happening. But I didn't. And that's where I feel like I shifted this month. It is, neutrality is a beautiful word for it, because I had the desired outcome that I wanted, or I'm sure you've said burning desire to me, or like just chase it. You've said so many, you've used all vocabulary to try to invoke that feeling within me to go towards it. And I just had to let go of it to feel it.
And a sidebar, chase is not my word. I would never say chase, because chasing is like urgency. And I can tell you one thing, that
I was chasing.
Jen Anderson is a word that you hate more than anything else, is urgency. And therefore I would never say chase to you.
That is so true. I do not like the word urgency. It doesn't make me clench my whole body anymore.
That's good. That's good. I know. It's so funny. And it was interesting because I had Beck on for solar plexus, and Beck actually said I would have argued for my limitations before too. So can you give like even more character to that statement? Because I think that that's something that people maybe don't even realize that they do.
Oh, it's just, so much so.
Yeah.
Because the first time I ever heard that was probably 5 years ago. You can argue for your limitations all you want. And I can't remember who said it or what said it, but it did land. And it did open me up somewhat when I first heard it, but then realizing this past year that I was still arguing for limitations in different ways. And so you would say to me, what are you tolerating? I'm not tolerating anything, is how I would respond. That's arguing for a limitation. What are you like? There's so many.
I can give you. I got one for you when I sent you the money mantras.
Bob Proctor.
I don't know if Bob Proctor. You also argued against Bob Proctor,
who I love. For the record, I love the premise, but I was like, don't send me him.
He's not my favorite. I get the wrong vibe, like whatever. But when I was like, I am a money magnet, money flows to me, and you would argue it's not working. Mantras work for other people. They don't work for me. It's like that's a level of arguing for but I'm doing it, but this is happening. Like it's not happening. And you get so connected to it not being there. That's the arguing for the limitation.
And doing it wrong. That I was always not doing it properly. I think it was that same money mantra or the Bob Proctor one where you sent it to me and you said to me, I didn't even have to voice it. I don't know what I said to you, but what you responded with was, you can't do this wrong. You can do it at any time. in any way, with your children with you, with your children not with you. You can do it in the morning, Jen. You can do it in the afternoon, Jen. It was like, Sam, I am. And you kept telling me about how I could not do this wrong, but I was still arguing for the limitation that I was doing it wrong.
This brings me to a very important limitation that I think people, and this is important for people to start receiving in their crown, because I can remember now what this conversation was about. You were like, well, I can only do this whatever during the times of like when it's like the kids are asleep, or there's like this pocket of this or this and you are trying to create a non-existing time in your day that you would never be able to find in order to make this thing
the most valuable that it could be.
Yes. And I was like, no, that's not real.
Oh, but I argued that it was.
You did. And I think that this is significant. And I want to bring it back to, because I know you and I are just having so much fun right now.
I know.
That, you know, there is a place in which we create an obstacle, or we create a way in which we sabotage something before we even begin.
100%. And as much as we're laughing about this now, I could not laugh about it then.
No.
In that moment, it was very real that I was not doing it properly, and that money could not flow to me, that I could not receive these things, that I was, one time you had told me what I should price something at, and I like threw up, and I was like, there will never be a day that I am able to charge that for my services.
Are you open to sharing?
Yes.
How our story ended?
Yes, I will. It was uncomfortable, but I think it's important.
Well, our story has never ended, but like what happened at the end of us working together? Yeah.
I couldn't come up with the money to continue working with Tamara. And it did. This is actually when I was arguing for all those limitations. And I was so frustrated because I really wanted to work in that container with you. And I really wanted to believe that I could call in the money to make that happen. And I really wanted to believe that I could be that level of person and coach myself that was able to make that happen. And I couldn't. And I cried some more. And I cried some more, and I cried some more. And Tamara Avalon would say to me, are you sure this is what you want? And I would get so frustrated. Yes, this is what I want. This is 100% what I want. Now I look back, I'm still not sure if it was either what I wanted or not wanted, or if it was just that I needed to be solo and fly on my own for a little bit to sit in those things.
Did you remember why I told you we needed to stop working together?
Because I was using you as a crutch as to why it wasn't happening?
No.
Ooh, this is good.
Because you were using the coaching and the not having money as a means to harm yourself.
Yes, I was. Deeply. Yeah. And looking back at it, I had been doing it for a long time, but in a different capacity.
I think this is twofold important, because I think as coaches who are listening, because relationships with our clients, like we have to be able to look at what's happening in the viewpoint of service to them. And when you can witness somebody utilizing the fact that they weren't coming up with the money, or they weren't able to, because whether they were arguing with their limitations for whatever purpose, but the minute that the coaching itself becomes the flagellation, what they're actually utilizing as a source of making themselves bad or wrong, or in like that, then the coaching is never in service to them. And so it was like, as coaches, and I think it's important that people are aware that yes, that your clients aren't always going to come up with the money. Right. And what are the ways in which we serve? Do we coach them through? Because this is a conversation nobody talks about.
Absolutely. So I love that we're talking about it.
right? But when it became more harm to you, when it was like your thing that you were clinging on to as a means to tell yourself how terrible you were, I was like, no bloody way is this helping or healthy.
I
And
want
we're
no
done.
part of this, Jen. But I still was like, no, do not let go of me. You have to guide me in this, and I don't know what I will do if you don't. But it was also, and this is where I think, everything does somewhat happen for a reason with so many caveats in there. But I do believe that we're in control of our own destiny. And so it was really hard for me to experience this. It was like the bottom of the barrel is what it felt like, right? Like scraping the absolute bottom. If I am talking about manifestation, and I am talking about law of attraction, and I am talking about how you can create your reality through thoughts and how words are so powerful, that's what I do in my business, but I couldn't do it. That was dark. That was a little bit of a dark time. But as we all know, after the dark time, the biggest breakdown is the biggest breakthrough. And so that was necessary for me to recognize that, to live that, to go through that.
And guys, just so you know, like the love that you have for your clients, the love that you have for your coach, there's like a deep, like sincere love. And, it was from that level of even letting you go and witnessing, because I knew what you were going to do when we ended. That the cycle would continue for a moment.
And it did.
Right? And I trusted fully that Source had your back. Source was going to come in, because this is like the thing about Crown. And this is like the most powerful shift we can make, is realizing that we cannot be the people that, do that work for our family, for our children, for our clients.
And this is where I shut down Crown for a time there, because I was also like, I trusted you. You were going to have my back. This was going to happen. I was going to do this container. And so I just shut it down again. Of like, I'm not listening to you because you don't know. I was pissed off. I was a little annoyed.
By the way, you guys are getting real time. Just Jen and I haven't actually talked about this in like our own conversation. And so my question for you is, you're saying like, I was annoyed, I shut down. Were you shutting down Source then? Or were you shutting? Okay. Cause you didn't clarify that it was Source that you had shut down the container.
That was Source. Yeah. I was like,
not Avalon.
No, not Avalon. It was just Source of like, no, you're supposed to be there, because for the last couple of years, that's what I've really tried to feel safe with, that I am always looked after, that I am always protected, that I can do big, scary things. I will always be okay. Big, scary things in like starting a business like this, going into bigger coaching containers, asking more for my services, sharing more. Like I was telling somebody this morning, which is so funny to me, because you shared in your stories today that we had this interview, and I said, I'm getting interviewed by a wealthy witch. And I laughed to myself, because I would not have been able to put that word out at all a year ago. That I couldn't. That's weird. Why would my family will judge that for sure, is what I would have told all these stories. My following is too conservative. I can't talk this way. And I remember at that retreat last year being like, no, you have more. I know you don't love woo-woo, but you have more woo in you than you think you do. And you need to start sharing that with other people too. And being okay to be seen fully as myself, and not worry about, like, I'll have people say to me, how do you, like a lot of people worry about judgment. And I feel like that was so long ago already, but it wasn't actually that long ago that I was worried about what people thought. And now I don't worry about any of it. And it was just a giggle again of like sharing that, like the wealthy witch is going to share with me today. And I don't care what anybody else thinks about that word or any of money. People don't talk about money either. I talk about money all the time now.
Money, wealth, abundance, prosperity, like all the beautiful words. So then let's ask you, what does wealth mean to you?
Wealth is like the full encompassing of all of it. And I really feel like my family life was really good. My husband's relationship and I are really good. I have great kids. I feel like I have a really good relationship with my kids. We moved to a new province 2 years ago. That all feels really good. So then I could not possibly also have the money that went with it, because before we moved, we were very good on this side. And so it was like the scales had to keep tipping back and forth. I couldn't have it all. And so what true wealth to me is being able to have all of that and believe that you can have all of that fully. All of it. All of it.
All of it. I love it. And I want to go back to the one thing that you said, and because I didn't quite signify the piece that I was like, oh, there's a piece of resistance that, Jen said in the 4 steps, you gave like 4 steps and like how, you laser focused, you did your mind work with emotion. The third one, which is what I believe is the really powerful piece, is that you did less in your business than you ever had before.
Yeah, I did.
Share a little bit. Yeah, share about that.
That has been a push-pull for a long time. I think it was just like the final breaking away of like dollars for hours and feeling worthy of it. I also, about a month ago, I had somebody say to me that I earn more than a psychologist. And then like they quoted me what a psychologist makes. And it didn't bother me. And I thought that was really cool, because a year ago that probably would have crippled me of like, who am I to make more than a psychologist who went to school for 4 to 7 years, or, all of these things. But I really only work like 3 to 4 hours a day max. And I know that that's important to me. It has always been important to me. And I've always claimed that that's what we should do. And then at the end of the week, I would tally up and I'm like, you actually worked like 30 hours, 30, 35 hours. But I was so strict in my boundaries this last month of like, no, there's always going to be the to-do list. I can always do more. Like I have a podcast, I have a YouTube channel, I have social medias on both sides. There's always more places you could show up, which is actually a trigger like urgency, I've realized. Because I could always do more. I can hear you saying to me, just do more. And what I needed to do more of was not being right in my business, because I was so focused on what wasn't working, what I was doing wrong in my business. Whereas now it's like, whatever, it doesn't matter. I work my few hours, I have my calls, I have my like specific clients, I have, any leads or anything like that. And I just go into everything of, there's so many, I'm still going to call them Tamara-isms, because Avalon-isms doesn't roll off my mouth.
No, it doesn't quite roll the same. Yeah.
They've always been Tamara-isms to me. And you just saying to do what I was like called to do, or like follow what I was meant to do. And for me, I thought I was following that, but I wasn't fully embracing and embodying that, because I truly am not meant to work many hours. I truly am meant to come in for a few powerful, energetic hours and then go back into rest. And I did not feel worthy of that at all.
So what is the thing you're most excited about now that, like, girl, your whole chakra system's lit up like a Christmas tree now? Like, you know what I mean? Like, you are on the receiving end. What are you most excited about now?
Oh, well, today I'm most excited about, last year at retreat, my word for the year, and I don't even think you did that as an exercise. It just came to me at retreat that my word of the year would be ease. And this year, my 2021 word will be possibility. And so I really just feel like a little kid of like, ooh, imagine if that happened next year. Ooh, imagine if that happened next year. Ooh, maybe I'll just move somewhere else for 3 months. Ooh, like everything feels like a true possibility, where I felt like I had fought for possibilities before. I was still wanting to like truly believe, but it just feels really spacious to be like, is that possible? Yeah. I've proved to myself a few times it's only been a few weeks, but God, it feels like a year in a beautiful way of like, I'll just think of something cool to happen and then it happens. And then I'll just think of something cool to happen and then it happens. And it just keeps happening.
On happening.
Oh, it's cool.
You're the first person I didn't ask this question, and I know that you don't remember, but do you know what your Rebel Unicorn house is? Did you take the quiz prior to coming on?
I took the quiz when you first came out with the quiz. No clue what it is. I've even looked it up twice because a mutual friend asked me what my house was, and I was like, I don't know. I'll go look at it. And this was a couple months ago again. And then I went and looked at it, and it's gone again. Just for me.
I put you as cosmic.
Cosmic? I'm gonna go look at it.
You're totally cosmic. We're going to put in the show notes because I think that there's a significance for people who are listening to understand how each of their houses like works, like to put the person in the house that they're in and be like, okay, this makes sense for their house, right? Cosmic is like, I'm a cosmic, Jen. Like we are like here to influence one human at a time, to like, you know what I mean? Be connected to the cosmos and be the portals for, you know, that energy to flow through us. I feel like that's you.
I feel like that's me. I'll take it.
We will clarify in the show notes. And then my question to kind of like bring this together is, what does being a rebel unicorn mean to you?
Ooh. It's just badass and not being afraid to be badass. Like I've embraced Rebel Unicorn, I think, before you even announced Rebel Unicorn as a group name, or I don't know if it was just in your vocabulary. Like it wasn't odd to me when you set up your group that way. Like I felt like I'd heard that a million times from you before. And unicorns make me smile all of the time now. Cause I'm like, badass. I am a rebel unicorn. I am a badass. I will break every box of belief systems that I have within myself is what that feels like to me. I just think I've carried so many beliefs, and now it's been like a couple years in the making, but I really feel like in this 2020 time of like, why do I believe that? Why do I believe that? Why do I believe that? Questioning all of those things. Whereas a rebel unicorn doesn't have to, they just believe whatever they want to believe. You make the rules. You're a rebel unicorn. You can do whatever you want. You can shit Smarties if you want.
That's like, everybody pause again. That is a quotable. You can shit Smarties if you want. That's a tweetable right there. Please tag Jen Anderson and at I am Jen Anderson and at Avalon Starlight coaching at You Can Shit Smarties if you want to.
Yeah.
I think that would be hilarious. And please find unicorn memes with Smarties coming out their butt.
Yeah. Or Skittles. Something rainbow-ish.
Rainbow. Yeah. I feel like we'd have to put Skittles in there if it was like, shit the rainbow.
Yeah. Something like with the magical.
Oh my God, this is so fun, Jen. For those who are listening, who are picking up on your vibe, who are just like, oh my goodness, yes, she's happy. Yes, she's joy. Yes, she is yes and support, pure love. And I just need to be in her frequency way more. Where are they going to go find you?
I am Jen Anderson.
Literally, it's I am Jen Anderson.
Because there are so many Jen Andersons. So I am JenAnderson.com. I am Jen Anderson on IG. I am Jen Anderson on Facebook. All of the places I am Jen Anderson.
And you really are Jen Anderson.
I really am. That was really uncomfortable to make my name I am Jen Anderson on those platforms. That felt really obnoxious and arrogant. And now I'm like, yeah, I am.
Yeah, you are. Well, I am so excited for people to receive this transmission and to hear the struggle that even you and I went through at the end there, into this beautiful space of like abundance and joy and love and intimacy. And it has been such a journey to witness, to watch, to be a part of, to celebrate. You are beautiful.
You are beautiful. I messaged Tamara the other day with this Avalon. The other day, I will get it someday. I will remember that it's Avalon. Yeah. The other day with I feel like I won an Emmy this month, and that I wrote her this big letter, and I will send it to you, but I want to snail mail it. I want it in my writing. I don't want it just as a text of like, thank you. Thank you. I would not have done this without you. And that's truly, and I'll tear up here. I wouldn't have done this without you. And I know you know that, but if anybody has the niggle to work with you, they need to. It might be uncomfortable.
I hope so.
Yeah. I hope it is too. That's where the real growth happens. I was so uncomfortable all the time.
I triggered the fuck out of you.
All the time. In the most beautiful, but you also held the safest space. I never walked away feeling hurt or angry, ever. And actually, one time I was pissed off at you, and I told you I was pissed off at you, and you held the space, and that was important for me. I had never told anybody ever in my life that I was upset with them, and you loved me anyways. That was a big moment. Yeah.
This is like, thank you. What a very powerful ending to a powerful series. Actually, this is the end of the Energy Funnel series. We're ending in the most celebratory state, which is tears.
Yeah.
Tears of joy from all the tears of sorrow. Because all tears are transmutation of emotion from one form to another. They have to leave the body somehow.
They do.
The emotions do. And so I have a jar of your tears up in the closet. I probably have one.
It'd be an ocean if we had tried to bottle those things.
So thank you everybody for tuning in, for being part of this series. I can't wait to hear how this episode resonated with you in this grand finale. And I look forward to tuning in with everybody very soon. Wow, that episode was mind-blowing. I hope you had as many ahas listening to it as I had recording it. I would love to see the Rebel Unicorns podcast spread far and wide across the globe, across the universe. So if you want to share it on your social media with something that you found impactful, leave a review, send it to a friend. It would be so deeply appreciated. Also, a little side note, I did recently change my name. I downloaded a year and a half ago that my name was Avalon Starlight. It was previously my birth name was Tamara Arnold. And if you're interested in learning what your Rebel Unicorn house is, oh yeah, there's a quiz for that. Think Harry Potter, except you're sorted into how you are impacting the world with your Stardust and what energy you're here to shift and change. You can find out your Rebel Unicorn house at www.tamaraarnold.ca/quiz. Let me know, tag me in social media, send the quiz out, and join the Rebel Unicorns Facebook group to be in a community of like-minded spiritual entrepreneurs who understand that when you shift your energy, you transform your business.